What is up, my fellow freaking anti-netters, my true anti-netters, the subscribers of the Scott Shepard letter? You know who you are. Freaking Kathleen, Stephanie, Terry Greer, all of my people. Victoria, the anti-freaking novelist, everyone in there. Amy, and then hello, of course, to all my freebie-seeking Zettelkasten shitweasels of YouTube. How are you? Go flop around in the freaking comments. Anyway, I still love you. Shitweasels is an endearing term, okay? But what I want to actually share with you today is, as promised, I'm going to walk you through the process of Zettelkasten reading. And what we're going to do is we're going to install a book by a man named Ian Davidson. And the book is called Voltaire. You see, I've been reading this book recently, and I've been reading a lot of books that, have no apparent purpose other than they just call to me. This Voltaire guy is a French Enlightenment thinker in the 1700s. He was a playwright, poet. He wrote a lot of very fantastic pieces that talk about the Enlightenment, like basically thinking for yourself and starting to question and the pursuit of science and all of that stuff. Quite frankly, I thought he was a gay man, but he's not. He's actually not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, look at that. The guy looks freaking gay. Okay, what can I say? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, but I actually had no idea who the frickin' hell Voltaire was. I thought he was more of like a classical music guy or something. But I've been reading it. It's been fascinating. I like to read on my patio in the evening and just note down ideas that just randomly come from this. This is kind of like the polymath reading assignment. Some shitweasel in the YouTube comments asked if I study, any polymaths or anything like that. Why would you even sit here? Let me just rant this out. Why would you study a polymath or like the concept of being a polymath? Just fucking be a polymath. Just frickin' read whatever the hell interests you. Math, science, whatever. Nerd out on stuff. You don't need to read books about being a polymath. Just be one, okay? Anyway, that rant aside, here's what we're going to dive into. I'm going to show you, here's the bib notes I've been taking. And if you have no idea what a bib note is, then it's probably because you haven't read the true Zettelkasten book, the anti-net Zettelkasten book. If you have no idea what a bib note is, it's probably because you've read Zonke Arens's How to Take Smart Notes, which is just a bastardization and an inventation of what a Zettelkasten is, and it's basically launched a foray of all of these losers that hang out in the Reddit Zettelkasten and just fart around with metadata tags and show off their obsidian bubble graphs all day and jerk themselves off all day. It's stupid. It's just dumb. The true way, the real way, the way to actually develop knowledge and think is the old way. And it's the simple way. It's not the easy way, but it's the analog way. And it's the way in which you create an actual anti-net Zettelkasten. Okay? Enough of a rant. I'm going to assume that you are not a obsidian bubble graph boy and that you don't just, jerk off in the Obsidian forums and talk about metadata conventions and all that bullcrap all day. I'm going to assume that you know what a real Zettelkasten is, an anti-net Zettelkasten is. So, with that preamble out of the way, with that polite, preamble out of the way, what we're going to dive into is I'm going to show you how to actually install these bib notes on this bib card that I took into my anti-net Zettelkasten. Okay? Are you ready for that? Good. I'm actually going to show you it today. Okay? So, let's walk through this. Okay. I'm going to move this down and let's just dive in. No rehearsal. We're just going to go. And by the way, here's my only disclaimer is that because I'm showing this to you shitweasels out there, this takes a lot longer than it normally would because I'm trying to operate a camera and trying to talk while I think and have to slow down for all of you shitweasel degenerates out there, okay? So, with that out of the way, let's start going through this. Now, first things first, I'm not fully through this book. As you can see, I'm on page 89. I just recently started it. So, I'm going to put a little bookmark right here. And the first thing that I need to do is, as you can see, there's nothing on the back side. So, we need to change that. We actually need to put the bibliography information on the bib card, okay? So first things first, I'm going to actually put my little lamp right here, and because I am a badass, I like to use this awesome metallic ruler to help me write straight, okay? not, you know, in terms of sexual orientation straight. I mean, like, write actually a straight line, okay? Once again, I don't care if you're gay. I think Voltaire might be secretly gay, even though he's plowed quite a few women so far in, you know, reading this book so far. But that's besides the point, okay? The point is, what we need to do is we need to actually write down and notate the bibliography information so we know where the hell all these insights came from, okay? Great. You're with me so far. By the way, if you want to know, here's this real quick. If you actually want to know how this bibliography process works in creating bib cards, chapter 11 of my beast of a book, this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Antinet, has a fantastic description of how to do this, okay? So you can get that book, by the way, not through Amazon and, you know, through supporting Jeff Bezos, his bald ass and his freaking muscly body and his ditz of a girlfriend, Lauren Sanchez, that freaking gold digger, because I don't put my book on Amazon. My book is only available on scottshepherd.com/antinet, mofo. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to put the author's last name here, Davidson, comma, Ian, and then we're going to put the title of the book. So, you know, it's interesting. Check this out. I don't know if you can see this. Whoop. Can you see that? Good. Good. The title of the book is Voltaire. Creative title, right? On the cover, it says Voltaire and a Life. So, I don't know. Like, I don't really... Normally, I don't... Sometimes I'm a stickler about this stuff. Like, I actually want to get the real title. Look at that. You see that? It says... Right there, it says under there, Voltaire, a Life. So, what's the freaking title? I don't even know. I wonder if the author even knows. All right, we're just going to assume that the book is called Voltaire, okay? So, here's the bibliography information. We're going to write Voltaire on it, okay? Actually, it's funny, like, doing this stuff, I'll zoom out now. Doing this stuff, I remember as a kid, like, I was not the best student growing up until I got to college. I got to college somehow into a really nice liberal arts small college in Southern California called Chapman University, and it's from there in which I like buckled down and I actually started diving into and caring about school, and I started kicking ass. But before then, like growing up, I remember being in like, what was it? Probably freshman or sophomore, I think sophomore year of high school, going into the library, and they're like telling me how to look up library cards and write this bibliography information. I was like, shut the hell up. I'm going home to play EverQuest. This is the dumbest shit ever. And then here I am now at the age of 37 years old, you know, nerding out and freaking writing bibliography information down. So the lesson learned is, you know what, kids, stop playing EverQuest and World of Warcraft and start listening to your librarian teacher and writing stuff down, because it matters. Just kidding about that. And probably for 96% of the people in this world, it won't matter. Okay, so what we're going to do next is, okay, so it's Davidson, Ian, Voltaire. That's the title of the book. We're going to put Pegasus Books, okay, because that's the publisher, Pegasus Books, and then colon, New York, New York, New York, and then we're going to put the date, the copyright date. So it was copyright 2010. Okay, so 2010. It's actually kind of nice doing that because it gives you an idea. So that's what we've created. That's the bibliography information. Now, what I like to do in the top right here, we're going to create like a little reference, okay? My convention, and you don't have to do this. This is, by the way, this is something that Lumen, whenever the creator, not creator, but the latest person to put the stamp on this notebox method, Nicholas Lumen, whenever he would reference something, he would just put like Davidson, Ian, Voltaire, then like the page number. But for me, I like to do this little thing called a short code. And what it is, I do B dot, and I'm going to do Davidson, okay? I'm going to actually, look at this. I kind of fucked up, guys. I'm going to, just because it gives me a little bit more context, I'm going to make this short code. I'm going to make it, what do we call this? What do we call this bib short code, you know? The bib code. That's what maybe what we're going to call it. It's the bib code. It's even more crazy than all of the horseshit propaganda laid forth in the Da Vinci Code, okay? So what we're going to do here is, and hopefully you can see this. Ugh. I'm going to write this out. We're going to put B. Davidson, and then I'm going to do Voltaire. Because that will at least tell me whenever I reference something, it's like B. Davidson, page 56. I'll know that it's, if I do B. Davidson Voltaire, I'll know that, okay, wait, sorry, you can't see this. If I do B. Davidson Voltaire, you'll know that, that I'm talking about Voltaire, okay? And so let me just show you where we're going to file this is in the Zettelkasten, the real Zettelkasten, the anti-net Zettelkasten. There's this bib box section. Basically, we just are going to file this in the D section, Davidson and Voltaire. So I'm going to navigate over here, after I'm done, and I'm going to install it, in the D section of my bib box, okay? But we don't need to do that right now. I'm just sharing that with you just so that you know, okay? All right, so with that out of the way, let's start diving into this actual material, shall we? So let me put my, by the way, one of the requirements, we'll zoom out here so you can see this. One of the requirements in using an anti-net Zettelkasten and succeeding as an independent writer is to have some badass, really expensive, $800 or more Mont Blanc pens, okay? And if you don't do that, then you're going to absolutely fail. You should just go back to your obsidian ways and start farting around with bubble graphs all day. Okay, so the first thing you're going to note, I want to show you this, well, maybe you can see this, is, so on page 17, I wrote V, that means vocab, a vocab term, and then licentiousness. And so licentiousness is something, licentious is something I recall as a vocab term. And what I want to do is I want to basically, and I've talked about this in my video on chaos boxes and vocab boxes, what we're going to do is I like to use 3x5-inch cards for my vocab terms. And I also like to pull out a actual real hardcover Webster's dictionary, okay, just to get the term. And actually, here's how much of a badass I am. Let me show you this. Okay. Just because I'm feeling sauce, sometimes I feel saucy, and I have a freaking big, huge, massive Oxford dictionary. When I want to feel even more like a pedantic asshole, I like to pull out the Oxford dictionary definition, which is fantastic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a real, actual dictionary. And the reason I pull out and have an actual analog dictionary versus looking up on, a dictionary on my phone is because the second you pick up your phone, the phone is frickin' just basically, what is that even called? What do you even call it? Where do strippers work? What are they called? A strip club? Yeah, your phone is a fucking strip club, okay? You pick up your phone and you're just sucked into ads and boobs and stupid YouTube videos with people like Alex Hermosi, who has steroided out, and he has a wife that has a bigger penis than he does. And why would you even want to pull out your phone and be sucked into that environment when you could just actually pull out Merriam-Webster dictionary and go through something like this? So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull out my Merriam-Webster dictionary. By the way, Merriam-Webster was an absolute, just a frickin', she was a frickin' bombshell, man. She was so hot. You guys should look that up. By the way, I'm kidding. I have no idea what she looked like, but that would be hilarious if she was a bombshell. Okay, licentious. Here we go. Licentious means, what the f does licentious mean? Lewd and lascivious. How does that even help me? Okay, what does lewd mean? Now I have to go look up lewd. Okay, Lewd. What does lewd mean? Licentiousness. Okay. Lew. Lew. Where the fuck? Okay. I think I see it. L-E-V, L-E-V, Q-R-S-T-U-V-W, yes, okay, lewd. There we go. Lewd is vulgar, okay? Basically, this pretty much describes my latest rendition of my YouTube videos, lewd and vulgar. Okay, so licentious means lewd and vulgar, okay? Cool. I'm just gonna frickin' look that up in my, I'm gonna consult with my actual real pedantic badass dictionary. We'll zoom this up so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna look this up in my awesome frickin' huge massive dictionary called the Oxford Dictionary, which I like a lot better. I mean, Merriam-Webster was too frickin' busy being a super hot bombshell and flirting with guys to provide a really, really good definition, you know? That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Okay. Licentiousness. L-I-B, L-I-B, L-I-C-E. Okay. Promiscuous and unprincipled in sexual matters. See, isn't that a fucking way better definition than that horseshit Merriam-Webster, which he puts together? Gosh, darn it. Okay. So, now what we're going to do is I'm going to pull out a 3 by 5 inch card, okay? Can you see that? 3 by 5 inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write on the front, I'm going to write licentious. And actually, let's find this. Licentiousness, okay? By the way, this takes about like 47 times as long to do this with you because I just start cracking jokes and talking than it otherwise would. All that other stuff is just going on in my head the entire time. It's licentiousness. Oh, okay, there's an I over here. Okay, now I know because I've written it out by hand. Okay, promiscuous and unprincipled in sexual manners. Okay, defined. Just going to write here, defined. Can you see that? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yep. Licentiousness. Licentiousness. Promiscuous and unprincipled in sexual manners. I like that. Promiscuous and unprincipled in sexual manners. Okay. Now, what I like to do sometimes, and most of the times I'll just like put the reference. I'll put like B. Davidson, Voltaire, page 17, so I can see from whence it came. Now, I kind of want to just see where it came from in a sentence. So I'm going to move over to page 17. And, oh yeah, here it is. Okay. I need to get one of those, like, book holder things. It makes it easier. Check that out, okay? It says, the speculative booms and busts of the new regime, which started with great excitement, ended up by causing great alarm, and some felt that the relaxed mores of the new court went much too far, often hand in hand with licentiousness. Okay, I don't really want to write that out because I just have other priorities in my life at this point. However, what I will do is I'm going to put in red pen. Let me show you this. This is an Egyptian edition Mont Blanc. You can tell because of that little star at the top. The star at the top basically just signals to others that you are a superior being and you write with an fucking Mont Blanc pen, okay? And then this is like a little Egyptian symbol, and I think it means, what does it mean? It means horse taint in Egyptian, believe it or not. Yes, that is absolutely 100% true. You can look that up as absolute fact. Okay, so this is a really cool pen. This is actually the pen I use for my red ink. Okay, so what I like to do for my external references, and external references, you can look what that is. It's an XREF. I like to put B dot, and then in red, I'm going to put B. Davidson, and then page Davidson Voltaire. Remember how we decided to do that? Davidson Voltaire. and then comma, 17. Boom. I'll put that in a little parentheses. Now, let me show you what else I do. I'm going to take this, and then I have a vocab box right here. And, you know, what I did a little bit ago, but it's mostly in alphabetical order. I used to have this all alphabetized, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to make it all chaotic. And then I, like, basically took them out of alphabetical order. But now I want to put them back into alphabetical order. So I'm a bit of a conundrum in my life. That's the latest ordeal going on in my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, after I burp out a beautiful breakfast burrito that my freaking amazing Earth Angel girlfriend prepared for me today, I'm going to file this licentiousness in the L category here. And then boom, I'm done. What I like to do is I like to review on, you know, on a regular basis, like whenever I actually, you know, exert self-discipline in my life. I like to review the chaos boxes and the vocab boxes and just kind of randomly review. It's called rote learning, I think, and then in memory science, and I talk about this in my anti-net Zettelkasten book, it's called maintenance rehearsal. Okay, cool. All right, so now we have just installed this first component, this licentiousness. All right, next up, what I want to show you is basically on page 27, I wrote down story, the power of following monomyth structure. Voltaire's play, Monomythic, succeeded and his original failed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up page 27 from whence this idea came, okay? And I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share my thoughts with you of why I actually decided to extract. And if you have read the Anti-Net Zettelkasten book, then you know that there are 4 methods, the 4 phases that you go through when you are reading Zettelkasten style. Selection, like selecting the sources, selecting what you want to read within it, and then extraction, which is extracting the knowledge onto a bib card, and then creation, creating the actual note, like writing it down, and then installation, how to install it in your freaking Zettelkasten over there. You see that? Okay. So now I have extracted this. So I'm going to show you what was going through my mind when I extracted this little nugget of knowledge here. All right. So, okay, on this page, and by the way, it becomes a lot easier for you to find stuff. I read this probably about like 4 days ago, so I'm kind of jogging my memory here. Okay, so here's where this idea came from, okay? So, this sentence, Oedipe, which that's like the French term, his term for Oedipus. He wrote a play called Oedipus, called Oedipe. It had been a great success, at least partly, because he had so closely followed a great mythic legend and a great tragedian, okay? The fate of Artimeri, whatever, I can't pronounce for jack shit, showed that he still had a lot to learn about how to write a play, especially one based on an original story of his own. So here's my thoughts on this. Right now, if you are a subscriber of the Scott Shepherd letter, then you know the past 2 issues have focused on the impeccable origin story, like how to write a freaking amazing origin story that helps to explain and create a movement around what you're creating, explain your product, and attract a tribe of awesome people, and really, you know, have your intellectual ideas catch on. So, what this reminded me of was there's this concept in Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in which he talks about something called the monomyth, okay? So here I'm looking up my story. This is in my index, okay? And what I'm looking for here is, I know my main section on my story, I don't know if you can see that, but it's 5225. That's like my main section, okay? What I'm trying to look for right now is, I want to look for so that's interesting. You see Universal Human Myths and Stories, 1665/2. I want to look up what that is right now. But what I'm really trying to find is my passage and when I talk about Joseph Campbell's The Monomyth. But for shits and gigs, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to 1665/2, okay? All right. Okay. 1665. 1665 slash 2. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Holy tits. So this, once again, is the power of using an anti-net Zettelkasten. This is the power of using and communicating with your second mind. So what's awesome is I'm reviewing this. It's written in my own handwriting. I know that I wrote it. I know that I was thinking some really fascinating thought at the time. And, that it's me. It's not just some copy and pasted obsidian, computer generated AI bullcrap. Okay. This is yet another one of the strengths of analog. So this says commonalities in human nature spanning nation, society, and culture, universal. So the same myths exist across culture when one removes the varieties of costume. So that comes from Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces on page 2. And it was discovered by researchers and psychoanalysts with Freud and Jung. Okay, so the example, this is seriously how this kind of gets. It's just so freaking fascinating. Look at it. Can you guys see how amazing this is? So you don't, because you can't really see what's going on in my mind. But let me give you an example. So it says, example, Oedipus. Okay, I completely have forgotten about Oedipus. And this is crazy because in Voltaire basically rewrote Oedipus, and that was basically the thing that gave him his claim to frickin' mother effing fame, was his play on Oedipus, Oedipe in French. And look at it, followed the drama triangle, which is a concept of victim, villain, hero, which is outlined by Joseph Campbell on page 3. Fantasies, this is another myth, okay? Fantasies experienced by happily married wives, the censures that Joseph Campbell talks about, modern doctor, all of this stuff, rebirth, this stuff is just fascinating, okay? So that already, you see that insight right there? Like, I can go from Oedipus and write like a post or an essay or a chapter or something about how the perennial human formulas of in myths, basically they're somehow ingrained in us. They generate success. However, just like Voltaire experienced, when you stray away from the myth, stray away from the tried and true story structure and try to be too original, you can have a lot of your plays and your stories can basically fall flat because there's some things that are completely ingrained. Okay, so I'm actually not going to install that piece right there, believe it or not. This is 1665, which is like my arts, humanities, philosophy section. What I do want to navigate to is I want to navigate over to my 5225, which is like my main structure of writing story. Okay, and I'm going to pull this out over here. Pull what out? The dart, man. You've got a fucking dart in your neck. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, then you need to watch the movie Old School. It's really, honestly, the most wholesome, fantastic movie you will ever watch in your life. Okay, so now that I am in 5225, this is my section in my Zettelkasten on story. And I've really invested a lot lately in, issue number 9 and 10 of the Scott Shepherd letter on how to craft the perfect origin story. Okay, so what I'm looking for, and by the way, you see how what I'm doing is I'm going through all of my old notes, and it's fun going through this because I'm actually looking for something. This kicks off something that I talk about in one of the final chapters of the Anti-Net Zettelkasten book about the association and the effects that happens and goes on in the mind when you are associating stuff. Okay, let's see here. Call to adventure. What I'm looking for is basically the monomyth. Oh yeah, this is supernatural aid. So isn't it freaking amazing? Like not having to go through basically search. This is fun. I'm like basically refreshing my mind. And here it is. Look at the monomyth. Okay, the 3 components. This is like the ultimate story. Okay. So after studying the structure of mythology stories, Joseph Campbell concluded that the fundamental commonality revolves around breaking the world into one repeating divine comedy. And speaking of divine comedy, that's basically Oedipus in a nutshell. Okay? And let me show you, this is something cool that you can see. I was doing these cards where I printed out this template for cards where on the left-hand side is the main idea and on the right-hand side is the inverted idea. I forced myself to invert and make an argument for the exact opposite case. that's something, I call them inverted cards or the anti-cards, is something how you can really, really, really expand your knowledge. It just grow your mind because everything you're looking for a counterintuitive opposite example. Okay, so what basically I'm going to do here is, so I've got the, excuse me, I've got the monomyth. God, it kind of, no offense, guys, but it kind of just sucks to have to talk through all this shit with you. Because it's like I've been talking the whole time where I can just be executing this stuff and doing it and implementing it. I can be done by now. Okay. Rant aside. Okay, so what I want to do and what I want to create is I want to create a card where I'm going to put like 5225 slash 3C slash 0 slash 1A. I'm going to create 1A right here, okay? And what I'm going to do on this card, this 1A card, is grab some of these cards over here. I'm going to create a card that says examples of people diverting from the monomyth and failing, okay? So that is what we are going to dive into. That is what we are going to do. So, all right. I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom this down a little bit more so you can see what I'm writing. So, what was that card number? I'm going to pull it over here. Okay. Okay, you see that? That's 5225 slash 3C slash 0 slash 1. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to put, let me just move this, give me some more room here so I can do this properly if I can. I don't know if I can move this. Okay. You're just going to have to read sideways or whatever, okay? If you can see this. Zoom out a little bit, make this higher. Okay, cool. All right. What I'm going to do, I'll put this over here, put this back, is first number it. I talk about this in the installation chapter called Installation in the Anti-Net Zettelkasten book. Let me take a deep breath because talking to you shit weasels freaking tires me out. Can't freaking breathe. Okay. 5225 slash 3C slash 0 slash 1A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a card that says examples of people diverting from the monomyth and failing. Okay. So examples of people diverting from monomyth I'll just give myself more space and failing. So this is something Luhmann did a lot in his later life. He, instead of writing out necessarily like full paragraphs, which he kind of saved for his manuscripts, he would create these things called collective references. I call them collectives. And you can learn about these in, the Anti-Net Zettelkasten book, these collectives, okay? So I'm going to write right here, I'm going to put, basically, like we said, Voltaire, succeeded with Oedipus. Voltaire succeeded with Oedipus, a play that made him famous in his early 20s. And he actually failed for 10 years. And watch this. Failed for 10 years because he created original plays that diverted from the monomyth. Period. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my Egyptian Mont Blanc pen, which is Egyptian for horse taint, and I'm going to put B. Davidson Voltaire, and then page 27. You see, now I know from whence it came. Okay, and so when I want to find more examples of people failing throughout my readings and from diverting from the monomyth structure, what I'm going to do is the next card that I create, it's going to be like 5225/3C/0/1A/1, and then 2 and 3 and 4. You see, I'm kind of like, by doing that, I'm kind of going down this branch structure, okay? If you can kind of visualize that, okay? So this 1A is kind of like a variation of the monomyth, and then that's why I'm installing it there, okay? So now let's go back and actually install this in our true Zettelkasten, the anti-net Zettelkasten, and that is what we're going to do now. So we have 3C/0. We have this one, which is 3C/0/1. And then we've got 3C/0/1A, right? And that's the examples of people diverting from the monomyth and failing. So now we can have basically, the next time I write about this, the next time I elaborate on this, which I'll probably write a book on this at some point soon, like crafting your origin story, that card, that example, that story is going to be in there and illustrate and be perfectly planted in there for an on-demand little nugget that's really going to illustrate and help people. And people are going to be like, how the hell was he able to like craft all of these like, you know, insane amount of examples that are just like that, you know, into this book, you know, like, and I'm going to be able to basically bust out these books with all these deeply referenced footnotes. People are going to be like, how the hell did he do that? Well, I did it the old way, the true way, the anti-net way, which you just saw, okay? So the next one is page 62. It's quotes on death. And so guess what? I am actually going to film part 2 of this video. I'm going to stop right now and just continue on and finish this out so you can see how I finish out the rest of this and film part 2 of this video. But I'm sorry, my fellow shitweasels, you're not going to see part 2 of this video unless you are a subscriber of the Scott Shepard letter and you have access to my tribe. And so what I mean by that is basically, if you are unaware, I'm going to just shill this for a second here, is I have, let me scroll this down, is I have a freaking awesome community of fellow anti-netters, writers, creators, thinkers, okay? It is available at members.scottshepard.com. Now, to get access to this community, you have to actually be a subscriber of the Scott Shepard letter. So if I go over to scottshepard.com and then basically under the products, I select the Scott Shepard letter. Well, if you scroll on down there, what you will find is the ability to actually purchase and check out the Scott Shepard letter for a free trial of just $11.86. Okay, you see that? Okay, cool, good, got it, good. So the Scott Shepard letter, I'll just show you this, is a physical monthly newsletter I write every month. It contains my best thinking, best knowledge, and best everything. Here's like, you know, an example of issue number 8. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to go through the rest of these. I'm going to film it and I'm going to show you every single step of the way of how I do it. And guess what? I'm going to post that for my true anti-netters, those who are subscribers of the Scott Shepard letter, and you're going to get part 2 of this video. So if you are just a freebie-seeking Zettelkasten shitweasel, I'm sorry, you can flap around in the comments. Still love you, it's an endearing term, but for part 2, you need to actually be a subscriber, a Sheparian, part of my tribe, and a true anti-netter. A true anti-netter is someone who actually supports an independent writer, creator, and thinker like me, and is someone who doesn't flop around in the YouTube comments and just be a troll shit weasel. So that is where the next phase and where we're going to go. I'm going to start with this quotes on death and show you how I'm going to actually install that piece, because the quotes on death, I have this whole section on quotes. How do you handle fantastic quotes? You know, you come across so many fantastic quotes in your reading. How do you actually install that? Where do you figure out where to install it? It can go in so many places. I'm going to show you exactly how to install that. And then I'm going to go through the rest of the card, and then we're going to keep going. So anyway, if you are a subscriber of the Scott Shepherd Letter, then you're going to see this video very shortly. And I'll include a link below this video. All right? Peace.